Hello. So this video is going to have us look at a couple of different ways that you might export your files from a program like Lightroom. So one of the real common file types that you would use is JPEG, but that's not something you want to use in all cases, especially if you want to print. So if you're going to be printing an image in our lab, you've worked on that image on your own computer at home, laptop, whatever, you bring it here and you want to print it. The most ideal and the highest quality format that you could use is what's known as DNG. Okay, so DNG is a raw file format. It's Adobe's raw file format, and that is ultimately the best format to use if you want to actually print an image in our lab from that. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the advantages, disadvantages of both of those, and show you how to go about exporting those. So like I said before, the JPEG is one of the most common file formats, and that's because it is very accessible. It's something that people use if they want to email or post something online, and that's because a JPEG is a compressed file format, which makes it a much smaller file, something you can easily upload to the web and easily put into an email. But because it's a small compressed file, it actually has lost a lot of the original quality that you had when you first captured that image in camera. So hopefully when you're capturing in camera, you are using the raw setting on your cameras, and that enables you to use the full capacity of your camera sensor to capture the highest quality your camera is capable of doing. And again, as you're editing an image, you want to keep it in that raw file format, and as you're going to print that image, you want to keep it in a raw file format such as DNG. However, if you've edited that image as a raw file and you want to post it online or email it or submit it for an assignment in Canvas, the more ideal format is to use something like JPEG. However, JPEG does have some disadvantages. So because when you export it, when you change it to JPEG, you're reducing a lot of the file size. What happens is the software it removes a lot of information that was originally in that file. And this here kind of shows an example. And this is a bit of an exaggeration for sure, but on the left, this is your very clean, high quality raw capture, and then over here on the right, this is what can start to happen with a JPEG file. So information gets tossed out, and then if you take that file and you bring it back into Lightroom and you decide to do more editing on it and make more changes to it, you're going to degrade the quality of that file, and you're going to engage in what's called destructive editing. And over time, the more and more even the more you open that file, it constantly loses more and more of its quality, and over time it will start to look pretty bad, like you see on the right here. Okay, so if you're going to edit that image and then export it and not do anything to it other than email it, post it online, what have you, a JPEG is fine. It's actually far more ideal. You don't want to try to export a DNG or a RAW file and post that online because it's such a big file. It's just going to take up a lot of space. It's going to take a lot more time to upload it. Okay, so let's go ahead and just look at a couple of these different format options. So I'm going to go ahead and export this file here, and I'll export it as a JPEG first. So I go to File, Export, and first thing you do is choose where to put this file. I have a folder with my name on my external hard drive here selected, and I'm going to put it into this Exports folder. Okay. Now I'll change this to JPEG. We'll export a JPEG first. Go ahead and put the quality at 100. That's fine. Again, just changing it to JPEG is going to reduce the file size. So go ahead and keep that quality at 100. Color space, if the only thing you're going to do with this image is present it online, sRGB is an ideal color space. sRGB is the color space of computer monitors and phones. It's a more limited color space than what you would have if you were printing this image. And in that case, you would use something like Adobe RGB. But again, if this is only going to be turned in online or submitted online, that kind of thing, sRGB is fine. It's a smaller color space, so it will reduce your file size a little bit more. And again, that's the goal with a JPEG, is to just create this kind of small, easily postable image file. Okay, the next thing we want to do is change the file size. So you're going to post something online. Generally, you do not want to use the pixel dimensions that you captured the image in. Okay, that's going to be far too large, way more information than what you need as far as posting it online. So I'm going to click here, resize to fit. You have a number of different options. I usually just choose long edge, and something like 1,000 pixels is fine for online. You might do something like 1500 or even 2000 if you want to be able to view that image a little bit larger on the computer screen, but 1000 is oftentimes plenty of pixels for viewing reasonably well on a screen. Resolution can be anything from 72 to 100. That is the resolution of most computer monitors and screens. So you don't need something like 300 resolution. That's just going to increase the file size unnecessarily. So something like that is perfect if, again, all you're going to do is post this to Canvas, post it online, add it to a platform like Instagram. These settings are ideal. Okay, so output sharpening. I usually do a little bit of sharpening. Just make sure you change it for screen and just do low. Don't really need to do anything more than that. Okay, I'm not going to mess with any of this stuff. Just going to go ahead and export that. That'll just take a moment. Okay, so now that JPEG is exported, and before we take a look at that file, I'm going to go ahead and take a look at exporting this also as a DNG. So the nice thing about a DNG is you don't need to worry about making any other changes to it. You just select DNG, and in fact you can't change anything about it. It won't let you change the file size or change sharpening or anything like that. So this is going to export it as Adobe's raw file format, which is DNG, which stands for digital negative. And the advantage of that, again, it's going to create a really large file. Okay, the file will be as large as the file you captured in camera, possibly even a little bit larger if you've done a lot of edits to it. So the disadvantage of a raw file is that it's not something that you want to try to post online or to Canvas. Some online platforms won't even accept a DNG format or a raw file format of any kind. So, but if you want to print, DNG is the ideal format. It's going to give you the highest quality to print from. And generally, when you go to print, despite the fact that you've maybe already done a lot of editing on that image, you always find little things that you want to adjust and tweak a little bit further and refine for the printing process. And if you try to do those edits with a JPEG, you're going to be altering that pixel information permanently, and you're going to be doing destructive editing. You're going to lower the quality of that image. So print from a DNG. Okay, let's export that. Okay, so my DNG is exported. I'm going to go ahead and go to my exports folder here. I can see both of those here. I'm going to go ahead and add those back to my catalog so we can see some of the differences in how they work when you put them back into a Lightroom catalog. Okay, so I've added the DNG file and the JPEG files that I exported back into my Lightroom catalog. And one thing I want to point out here is that when you bring in a JPEG, all of the edits that you've done, all of the sliders, everything, all of the adjustments are all zeroed out. So what has happened is all of those edits, adjustments I made to the image when I exported it as a JPEG, they all get compressed into the pixel content of the image file at that point. So now if I want to do any additional editing, I'm going to be doing editing on top of the editing that I already did, and I'm going to be making further adjustments to pixels that have already been altered. Okay, and that's where you start to further degrade the quality of that image. Now, if I take a look at the raw file, this is one of the additional benefits of exporting as a DNG. You see all of the sliders, all of the editing information is exactly as it was when I was initially editing this image in Lightroom. Okay, so it hasn't applied any of those adjustments permanently to the pixels of the file, and everything is just as you left it. So if you want to go back and make any additional kind of fine-tuning tweaks to any of these adjustments, you can do that without permanently altering the pixels of that image, which is going to retain the image quality of that and ultimately just give you a much higher quality image to print from. So those are the advantages, disadvantages of both of those file formats. But again, can't say it enough, if you're going to print an image in our lab, make sure to do it as a DNG, not a JPEG. It's just going to give you quite a bit more to work with as far as additional editing and ultimately far more superior image quality.